Hello, welcome back. I am so glad and excited and grateful to be back with another part to this series. It has been a minute, but I'm back in in past due fashion, but I'm here, okay? So before I get into consistency and everything else in this video, I want to touch on something that I have found since taking a break and not really making any videos. Now, I have been touching on this entire series as a whole behind the scenes, but since I've been doing that, I've come to really realize, when I say this is a guide to bringing our dreams to life, essentially what I really mean is this is a guide to how to take action. Action does play a big role in bringing our dreams into life. It's not the whole thing, don't get me wrong. It's definitely not the whole thing, but it does have a role in achieving our goals and bringing our dreams to life. One thing that I really want to express is that this guide is for those who have the dream and they work well in other parts. However, in action, they remain stagnant for several reasons, due to challenges, due to setbacks, due to a lack of routine or distractions, whatever the case may be. That is who this guide is for. And so I really just want to put that out there and also just express to you guys something I've kind of learned since creating all of this. So yeah, other than that, let's get straight into it, shall we? We are past the driving parts when it comes to bringing our dreams to life. We are now more into the moving parts, the parts that we're moving on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. And that brings us to consistency. Consistency is the ability to maintain a regular pattern of action towards our goals. Sounds pretty simple, right? We're just being consistent. Now, to be even more specific into what consistency is, we're not just taking any action. We want to be a little bit more specific. We're taking both direct and indirect actions. There are things within our goals that directly affect our goals, whether if that's doing the thing, you're posting the content or you're building the business, it's more hands-on and really just in the field. Whereas when we're taking indirect action, this is where we're researching, where we're planning, where we're scheduling, where we're revising, where we're reflecting. Oh my gosh, yes, where we're reflecting. And that is just as equally as important as doing the thing. So being consistent requires that we do both of those things, take both courses of actions on a regular basis. Now, being consistent looks like considering the amount of time, energy, and attention that we have day to day, week to week, based on our already schedules, already habits that are already in place, and looking at what we actually have to give to these goals and these different specific actions that we want to take in order to reach our goals. It looks like looking at those things and just wisely investing our time and energy into our goals. Being consistent is not us exhausting our resources, exhausting all that we have, and just straight pedal to the metal with everything that we're doing. That is not what being consistent is about. Consistency asks us to identify our more defined goal. A more defined goal is it basically just reflects what step you are at. So for me, my goal is to be an interior decorator or an established interior decorator, right? Now there's several parts that go into that. There's the learning part, there's getting clients, there's the actual part in carrying out other people's ideas. And with the step that I am currently at is the learning part. I'm currently learning all there is and that all there's necessary to know about interior decorating. And so with that being said, that would be my more defined goal. Now, the reason why we want to identify our more defined goal when we're talking about consistency is because we're narrowing down. When we're talking about consistency, we're getting into the very specific actions that we want to take right now and be consistent in right now. And so identifying our more defined goal in this section just allows us to narrow down on exactly what's the step that we're at and the actions that go into that step. Consistency also asks us to list the different direct and indirect actions that are necessary for our particular goal or for a particular more defined goal. Okay? Oh, that was a lot. But it asks us to just list the direct and indirect actions that go into that. So the tool that is used in order to become more consistent and just to be more consistent overall is baselines. Baselines is the minimum amount of time, energy, and attention that we have to invest into different actions and into our goals, essentially, after all of our other responsibilities and things that we have planned on a week-to-week and day-to-day basis. Step one into creating a baseline for our goals, for our actions, is going to be finding or just estimating the amount of time, energy, and attention that a specific action requires. So a specific action would just look like either me taking notes or me working on this project that I have, whatever the case may be, you doing the workout or you reading the book. How much time, energy, and attention does it take for you to do that? Just a good estimate. And what acknowledging this does, it allows us to better understand the action so that we can best plan it into our schedule. You know, if I know that this thing requires a lot of time, I'm not going to schedule it on the same day that I'm spending a lot of time doing something else. You know what I'm saying? Or just to each his own, and we are all allowed to just use our own discernment and look at that and see where it best fits into our schedule. And after that, in step two, we're going to want to remove and replace any of the distractions that are currently in our life, either distractions or just anything unnecessary. And so what this step asks of us is just to list any distractions or anything that is unnecessary, that is taking up any amount of time, energy, or attention in your life that could really just be used towards another goal. And that doesn't even have to be direct. It's not like, oh yeah, I can't really spend this time doing anything else anyways. Those things still affect us. Sometimes when you spending your time and energy and attention into something that is not in your best interest or is not conductive to your goal, even if it's outside of it, that can be disruptive, and we still want to remove those things. And so from there, once we've listed all these distractions, all these unnecessary things that are currently in our lives, we're going to want to do one of two things, maybe both. Honestly, I mean, that's the type of girl I am. Both. I want both, actually. But one or two things can take place. Either we can find a new habit, whether if it's one that's already listed, already spoken about, or just another one that comes to mind, a new habit to replace that thing. Something that also matches the amount of time and energy and attention that goes into it. I remember when one of my things was I wanted to cut down on social media, right? I seen that social media was taking up way too much time and energy and attention in my life. Following along this, what I found was that my interior decorating projects actually take up the same amount of time, energy, and attention as social media. The same way I can sit on my phone and scroll on TikTok or scroll on Instagram or something is the exact same way I could literally sit on my phone and I could create decorations and decorate this space through an online tool, right? And so that's how that looks when we're replacing this old habit, this old distraction with a new one. It can look like that. You just want to replace it with something that looks about the same. You know, it's not the same, but the same amount of time, same amount of energy, same amount of attention that goes into that thing, you could put it into something else. Literally. So we can either do that, or we can get even more creative and find a way to make the distraction or the unnecessary thing less accessible. There's a lot of ways that you can go about doing that. The few ways that I'm aware of and that I have done on my own is, for one, disrupting routine. Again, with social media, honestly, your girl was that was one of my things, and it has a way of showing up sometimes, still to this day. But I've done a lot of work when it comes to like removing social media as a distraction from my life. And the way that I disrupted the routine was I just moved the app. I moved the app to a completely different place. I moved it a few times, but the first time I moved it, it was still on the same page. You don't even have to do too much. Just moving it disrupts the habit. And so instead of me just going to scroll on TikTok randomly and just automatically or instinctively, instead of doing that, but what happened was I would go to press in that same place and I instantly remembered, wait, it's not in that place no more. I moved it. Not only did I move it, but this now grants me an opportunity to think. Instead of running on instinct and that instinct being followed through and following through on the typical old routine, it stopped me enough for me to think and sit and think, wait, I can spend my time doing this other thing, doing something more conductive with my life. That small space of disruption allows for something new and different to grow. So disrupting routines, you can find different ways to do that. I think moving things helps a lot. Like even in your space, like let's say you're someone who smokes and vapes a lot. If you just like put it in a space and place that is far away from yourself, that can disrupt routine as well. You know, you always have it near you, so yeah, you're gonna want to smoke it all the time. But the farther and the less accessible you make it to yourself, then the more you can disrupt that habit and allow new habits to take place and form and grow. Another way that I have found to make old distractions and habits less accessible is by creating boundaries. Now, you can create boundaries with people. Let's say you're spending too much time around certain people and you just don't, you feel like it's unnecessary. You know, you could be doing something else, you know, as much, even if you love and enjoy that time, you want to be doing something else instead. Well, you create boundaries. You say, hey, like I'm only going to be able to hang out with you on these days moving forward, or this much time moving forward. You can also create boundaries with other things as well. Same thing with smoking. You could set a boundary and say, hey, I'm only going to smoke at this time of day or this many times a day. Whatever works best for you. But creating boundaries does help as well and allows you to not indulge or overindulge into habits that are taking up time, energy, and attention that could really just be going elsewhere. And last but not least is just removing the thing entirely. Honestly, all of these different ways, they have levels to the amount of accessibility you're allowing. And for this one, it's like no accessibility. You're allowing no access. And not every habit or thing requires the same thing. Like, yeah, I don't want to be on social media every day, but do I want to be on social media sometimes? Yeah. It's a way that I find that I can connect with the world around me, far from me, and sometimes I do want to be on it. So I'm not going to remove it entirely, but there does have to be a limit. There's a boundary that it is just not allowed to cross. However, like I said, some things do need to be removed entirely, and so that would be like the last exhort. You just remove whatever habit or whatever thing that is taking up space in your life that you do not want to any longer. just removing accessibility from it entirely. So those are the 3 ways you can make any distractions or habits less accessible. Let me know if y'all have any in the comments. I feel like, because these are things I found in my own experiences, but I'm honestly curious to like other things that might exist. Like, now that I think of it, like, damn, what other things are out there? Like, give me some. Now, on to step 3, where we have removed these distractions. We're aware of how much time, energy, and attention that these new actions we're wanting to take requires, or how much is necessary. Now we are going to schedule our time into these new habits, these new courses of action. And in this, when we're creating a schedule, we want to be first intentional, and we also want to be specific. Now, being intentional, what that really looks like is just like, it's a matter of really knowing yourself, knowing your schedule, and just placing it like it's a puzzle piece. It's really a flow. So one thing, like for me, I know after I eat or after I take a shower and things of that nature, and once I wind down for the day, I'm not doing nothing after that. I remember in the past when I first started like applying baselines to my actions and the courses of actions that I was taking to fulfill my goals, like I would sometimes plan things after my shower, and I quickly learned that to never do that again. Like, why would you plan for me to do something after my shower? Like, girl, I just wander down, relax, and some other stuff, and you mean to tell me you want me to get up and do this? I think not. So when I say be intentional, just placing different activities in a time frame that makes sense, or placing it on the days that make sense. You know, if you're already having a relaxing day on this one day, you know, you might not want to add something that requires a lot of energy and a lot of time and attention on that day. You might not want to. Some other people might. They might be like, hey, you know what, this is a relaxing day, I ain't got much going on, I'm gonna add that in there to give it a little flair. Or you just might want it to be a relaxing day. But however you place and schedule these new courses of actions, you want to be intentional and place it very craftily and intentionally, okay? Now, after that is being specific. Now, with this one, I've got a little, it's a bit tricky for me. I feel like with all of this, you, of course, want to use your own discernment, right? Being specific, though, is not something that I can't encourage one. I am in no place to encourage somebody to like know exactly what time and when and how much time they're going to spend on a thing. I'm in no place to do that. Some goals require you to know what time of day you're going to do it. Other goals might not. It might just require you to, you know what, I just want to spend 10 minutes on that thing. I don't even know when throughout the day I'm going to do it, but I'm going to spend 10 minutes on that thing. You know what I'm saying? And then also just depending on your schedule. Some people might be able to say, hey, every Monday and Wednesday I'm going to do this thing. Other people, it might not be the same. It might be, hey, I'm going to do it on 2 days every single week, and I'll figure out those 2 days like every Sunday, or like on this day I'll plan it out and figure out which days is best for me to do it. You know what I'm saying? But either way it goes, you want to be as specific as you can be. Are you going to do it 2 times a day? Are you going to do it for 10 minutes? Are you going to read 10 pages? Be as specific as you possibly can be is what I recommend. Me personally, a lot of the things I do are not specific. Like even me writing my book, I'm not specific much. It's just like, hey, show up at least 3 times a week. It used to be 1 time a week when I was working. I said times. 1 time a week when I was working. That's because my schedule was a lot. And I had other goals that I was working on too. So everything was just like once a week, you're doing this thing, okay? But now for me, it's 3 times a week. I'm showing up to my book. And I usually figure out what day I'll be doing it on whenever I'm planning out my week every Sunday. Even with me not having the crazy work schedule that I used to have, like I I couldn't sit and just be like every Monday and Wednesday I'm doing this thing. I cannot function like that, and I get that. I'm not one of those people. Like I don't do well with a lot of confinement. Like I can do stability. I love stability. I love routines, but I do not like certain confinements, and that's one of my things. However, there is a way to be specific and be intentional without it being overly specific or confining to a point of detriment. There is a way to do it, okay? There's hope for all of the people out there, because I know there's so many people that's probably out there that probably can relate to that. Like, there's just some things you cannot have this like concrete structure with. And mind you, I'm a person who loves structure. I thrive off of structure, but when it comes to my scheduling, like I just like the flow. I just like to go off of instinct a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not always feeling the same. Like, don't get me wrong, some days kind of have that its own flair to it and it's consistent in that way. But like, I'm an always changing being, so I do not schedule out my weeks in that manner. And like every Monday and Wednesday, I do these things, and it might be the same theme, but it's not the exact same thing. Like I will admit that there is a theme to every day, because it's like Monday's the moon and Tuesday's the Mars and all that ordeal. I love that, and I still do schedule my weeks off of that. However, it's not concrete. It's not like I do my book every Monday. That makes my skin crawl, if you could not tell. But I really just want to express that for the people that can relate. Like, I know there's people that can relate to that, and I'm here to tell you that there is a way to still find stability and to thrive in that manner. You don't have to force concrete and ideas or concrete ways onto yourself. You do not have to. Okay? You just gotta find a way. You just gotta find your flow. Okay, this is a little bit off subject, but just a little tidbit. But back on subject, that is pretty much everything for consistency. All right, that's not everything for consistency. I meant baselines. My bad. That's everything for baselines. One thing to remember about baselines, though, is that baselines, the amount of times or the amount of time, energy, and attention that's going into a action, that can go up. It can go down as well. It can be lowered. It can change depending just on your schedule, your lifestyle. It can also change based on the progress that you are seeing or the lack of progress. So if you create a baseline for the first time for a particular thing and you're getting overwhelmed, you're being stressed, that's a big indicator that you might want to come back to the baseline section or the consistency section and work on your baseline and just refine it a bit more and figure out what actually works for you and become closer to that. And you can show up to this section many times as you need to for one thing or several things. And then, like I said, as we also progress, those baselines may go up. For me, it definitely went up, like I expressed earlier. When I was working a job, it was once a week for everything. You know, I would show up to my book, I would learn, I would write notes, or I would work on my project, do all these things once a week. Because work took up so much time and energy, not only at work, but before work, after work. It takes up a lot of time and energy. And I no longer have that in my schedule anymore. So I have been working on the things that I enjoy and pursuing my hobbies as well. That's another thing. Just even doing just the leisure, you know, like all of those things I spend a lot more time on than before. So it can go up as well. That's literally the entire purpose of a baseline. You want to create something where you can show up even on your worst day. You know what I'm saying? So even though I'm able to show up for my book 5 days out the week, I'm not going to set my baseline at 5, because I know that that's not something I can be consistent in and do every week. based on my schedule, based on my lifestyle. That's not something I can do every single week. However, 3 days out the week, hell yeah. Now I could do it 5 times, but 3 is the baseline. Baselines are not meant to be the end all be all. It's not meant to be something that outreaches our ability or just reaches the peak of our capabilities. It is meant to be the foundation to our actions. With that all being said, that is consistency. I love that. That was really good. It's been a while since I've been on here talking, so I'm actually kind of proud of myself for doing as well I just did. I'm super excited to be back. I've been working on this thing, and if I'm being honest, I want to share a bit of something that I'm excited about. This is probably the first time in my life I've ever been this close to finishing something, okay? Finishing something on my own. You know, I finished school, I finished Job Corps, but like, for me to finish something of my own, something that I'm creating independently, like, no one's telling me to get up and do this every day. There's nothing externally really motivating me. And I'm so close to being done. I'm so excited. I just want to share that. If I'm being honest, this video probably will not even be out until everything is done, but I want to express that, and I'm so happy. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, any comments, please leave it down below. I would love to collaborate. I would love to connect with you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time.